And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino, the Hump Day edition of Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance here with you, TK, over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, where people forget about Tremonti's, their catering. They do such an amazing job. They did my 50th birthday party. That you need to use Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. And, of course, boiled crabs. TK, what's that all about?
Today at about 3 p.m., boiled crabs are ready. You got to call and reserve them. They're going to run out. Normally, that's going to be a Friday, Saturday thing, but the holiday kind of messed that up a little bit. So boiled crabs available 3 p.m. today at Tremonti's. The lunch special is lasagna if you're not into boiled crabs, and you hit the nail on the head, Rodney. They are the very best at catering.
All right, so today on Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's, we're going to talk about some of the topics in the last 24 to 48 hours that the whole world's been talking about. Good morning, Chance. Please like and share, folks. Big 12 and Big 10 conversation and ACC and Pac-12. What are these conferences going to do, not named Big 10 and SEC? How are they going to maneuver moving forward? Well, some new information came out about UCLA and why they may have elected to join the Big 10. Tommy will get into that. Also, Big 12 looking to purge Arizona's two colleges, Colorado, Utah. What would that mean for the Big 12? I've got some thoughts on that. Oh, also, another big day for LSU. They get a 2024 linebacker commitment out of Jonesboro Hodge. I've got a Jonesboro Hodge Menard High football story for you a little bit later on. Trey Morgan, Dylan Cruz, they make the Team USA. Did you see the catch, Tommy, by Trey Morgan in foul territory the other day?
I did not.
So there was Trey Morgan, the Stars versus Stripes. They were playing basically scrimmage games against each other to kind of select the 24-man team or 26-man team to go play international competition. And they were over in Durham, North Carolina, the home of the Durham Bulls. And Trey Morgan's at first base. Ball's hit down the line in foul territory. He's running towards like the bullpen, the LSU bullpen direction. And he makes a catch up against the wall over his shoulder as he crashes into the netting down the right field line. I mean, it was a big-time play. I mean, probably he might have ran long further than the left right fielder did. I mean, it was a sensational catch. But Dylan and Trey made the team. Not really a surprise there. 8 SEC players made the USA team that's coached by Mike Bianco. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the British Open's coming up. Tiger Woods has some thoughts that Tommy will tell you about. But also Bryson DeChambeau, he's one of those big names. He's one of those top 5 players that have joined the LIV Tour. And we found out how much money, or an idea of how much money he got to join the LIV Tour. Oh, by the way, you would have too. So we'll get into that. But let's first talk conference realignment, Tommy. We found out why UCLA may have in USC, why they may have left the Pac-12.
Certainly a factor was for UCLA as they were struggling financially in their athletic department. And there was talk that they may eliminate some sports. Okay, then you get into Title IX and all that. Well, like we said, the teams in the Pac-12 got roughly $30 million. SEC and Big Ten teams got anywhere from 80 to 90 million. I mean, we're talking a lot, big difference. But one of the reasons they're going to head off to the Big Ten is money. It's all about money and everything just about that we talk about. So that was it. Now, the other wild cards, everybody's waiting to see what Notre Dame is going to do. Keep in mind, Notre Dame's in the ACC for all sports except football, and they have a contract where they play 5 ACC teams on their schedule. This is going to have to do with the grant of rights for the ACC. Notre Dame has a TV contract with NBC that's got at least one more year on it. So everybody's waiting to see what Notre Dame might do, and then you'll see some other dominoes falling. Also, the Big 12 is not standing pat. They have reached out to Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah about forming a super Big 12 conference. And hopefully they come up with a name and, show people they can count when there's more than 12 teams. And, so there's still, look, Ronnie, there's still a lot of rumors, a lot of innuendos, a lot of implications. But I think if you watch who you read and you follow the people that have been on this from day one, you get a little idea of some rumblings that may be more than a rumor. And I've read a lot on this, as a lot of people have. And again, it go to who's reporting it and what are they reporting. and then you can get a little feel for some things that might be happening. But major changes, major shakeup on the way.
The USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten was, I mean, that's about as big a shock as there is in the conference realignment. I mean, from a standpoint of geographical, from a standpoint of tradition, I mean, the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, there is no more loyalty. There is no more tradition. There is no more traditional rivalries. Forget all that. Forget the Rose Bowl is dead now. And now you see Chance saying Phil Knight wants Oregon into the Big 12, Big 10, or the SEC. I mean, that's crazy. So, and it goes back to what we said earlier, which is, okay, I get it for football. Football's the daddy. You only got so many football games, but we're talking soccer and volleyball and baseball and softball and golf, and they're going to travel cross country for everything. I mean, have you tried to flown lately? Have you seen the price of gas? So, and then there's Washington State saying, don't forget about us, right? Washington State's going to be playing in the league with Eastern Washington with that red turf here. But the thing that I think is more likely to happen, and if I had to predict and be Nostradamus and look into the future, and that is, I think you're going to see the Big 12 and the Pac-10 merge. Now, will all of them merge equally, or will they pick and choose? I think that makes more sense for them to form a super conference than it does for anything else. What's your take on that? I mean, look at if Arizona State. I mean, if you take what's left of the Pac-12, which of course is Arizona State, Stanford, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State. Now, I know Phil Knight says what he wants, but if you took the rest of that and you merged that with the Big 12, is that a super conference?
Well, it's not as super as the Big Ten and the SEC. Also, right. Talking about Florida State, Clemson, Miami going to the SEC now is one of the rumors that might have a little traction to it. So I envision two super conferences. Okay. Big Ten, Southeastern, whatever the Big Ten's going to call themselves. I mean, you could have 24 teams in each. That's 48. And then they're going to play football, and then they're going to have a multiple-team playoff. It'll be more than 4 teams. 8 would be a likely number. And then go from there. And then you have the Big 12 and whoever they absorb. The ACC and whatever happens to them would be, I don't want to say group of 2 like we have group of 5 now, but it's going to be a notch below, and then let them have their own championship. I mean, why not? I mean, let North Carolina State play Oklahoma State for the that level championship, and then let the super conferences crown whoever wins that.
Yeah, I don't particularly like it. Not to say that won't happen. I just don't particularly like it. That just doesn't bring me any juice to just have 2 conferences. And, oh, by the way, all these other schools that are decent don't have a seat at the table. I mean, we're still going to have this. I don't want the issue, Tommy, of LSU. Let's just pick LSU. LSU playing for a national championship, winning this super conference game, if you will, between the Big Ten and SEC. And then, oh, by the way, on the outskirts is an undefeated Florida State team, or an undefeated Miami team, or an undefeated Arizona State team. And then there's that same debate on who's better and all that. Like, aren't we past that? Can't we put all the big boys at the table and have a playoff of some kind, whether it's 4 teams, 8 teams, 12 teams, whatever? But there shouldn't be an argument at this point about who's the national champion. And if you do that, if you have the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots are substantial, and what I mean by substantial is an Arizona State or a Miami or a Utah. Or a TCU is a substantial team to not be at the table if they go undefeated and they've got any kind of decent schedule, and let's say they play 1 or 2 non-conference games against a Big Ten or an SEC team and beat them, and they go undefeated, but they don't get invited to the big party. They're at the junior prom and not the main prom. I mean, that's just silly at this point. I think they should be able to work that out.
Well, yeah, and Cincinnati got invited to the big prom this past year, okay, but that was kind of been the exception. But again, right, this is going to boil down to money. I know that's stating the obvious, but this is going to boil down to money, 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 TV contracts, conference divvying up these TV contracts, and what'll happen to the bowl system. I think it's due for a change. I'm not saying this year, but as we go forward, all of that's going to change. College football. We used this the other day. You go back to what it looked like in 2019. I promise you, by 2029, it's going to be 180 degrees different.
I hope it. I hope they get this thing organized and pretty quickly. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. I think 4 super conferences, maybe 3. Where does Notre Dame fit into this? I know that everybody keeps saying they're waiting for Notre Dame to figure out what they're going to do. Why is that?
Well, because it's Notre Dame. And I mean, the Big Ten would love to have Notre Dame. And Notre Dame would like to be in the Big Ten because of the northeast corner of the country is so populated, the TV markets, et cetera. But, you got the issue with the ACC grant of rights. You got their NBC contract. What happens to it? My guess is they're trying to sort through all that probably as we speak. They got phone calls going. They got Zoom calls going. They're doing the whole thing trying to say, well, if we do this, what about that? They're trying to figure it all out. It just won't happen overnight. But I would suspect within a month, Notre Dame's going to say something.
All right, so we'll just. I think this is going to change on the daily. So we'll just have to see what's going on. I like Arizona State, Colorado, Utah. I think them going to the Big 12 makes a lot of sense at the moment. But I do think if that happens, then there is no more Pac-12, and I think maybe the remnants of it join the Big 12. LSU football just continues to have like a party this week. I mean, they get another commitment. Jonesboro Hodge, linebacker, was it Debo Atkins? He ends up committing to LSU. I mean, it's unbelievable. Brian Kelly, welcome to Louisiana.
Well, real quick chance to answer that question is yes. They're in the ACC grant of rights thing. Oh, you're right. This kid from Jonesboro High is supposed to be the real deal. It's a 2024 thing, like you said. But Brian Kelly and his staff, they're out there recruiting away. Verbal commitments. We all know what that means. But every time somebody commits to LSU, it helps LSU, albeit verbal, because the word gets out, the name gets out, and these kids talk to each other so much now because of social media. 20 years ago, they didn't know who the other signees in the class were that they met them at the first meeting. So it's a different world with that as well.
It's amazing. I think because we're in the eye of the storm, we don't necessarily realize, because LSU, we compare ourselves as far as fans and whatnot. We compare ourselves to Alabama. We compare ourselves to, Georgia. We can, these are the elite. These are the tops of the top. We're not happy unless we beat those guys. And we forget that LSU on a national level has such a big time brand. You know what I mean? That it still carries a tremendous amount of clout. It's not, not some years maybe we're number 1, some years maybe we're number 4, but as far as LSU clearly is a top 10 brand, and it's probably, for the most part, I would put LSU arguably a top 5 brand in the country. But the bottom line is if you're a top 10 brand when it comes to football, you should always have a really good recruiting class. You should always really have a top 10 recruiting class. And if you're LSU and you're Louisiana, depending on the year of the talent in your state, maybe you have a top 5 recruiting class. But if you have a top 10 recruiting class in the country, you give yourself a chance, to win constantly.
Yeah, I agree with the brand. I think they're a top 5 brand nationally. And all sports have contributed to that. And obviously it's led by football, and it's led by what they did in 2019, and just, how many times they got talked about every day for forever through that. But then, you look at what all the other sports programs have done. and it's an amazing brand, and it helps LSU in many ways, and it helps with student enrollment. It helps with money that goes, is donated to the university and all that good stuff. So, it's all part of it, and LSU is among the top in the nation.
Well, and then obviously these players, the recruits, the people you speak into, the high school athlete that is, they're looking at college as a leaping pad, a stepping pad to the pros, whatever the sport is. Uh, you look at the NFL; it's blanketed with LSU players, and particularly really good ones, right? I mean, some of the better players are LSU players, and so you're constantly getting that brand. And so I think sometimes we are a little harder on ourselves, like most people, harder on ourselves than we should be. But and sometimes we get really surprised, or that people look at LSU the way they do. The reality is that yes, I mean, a lot's been made about the NIL money, that LSU doesn't have the NIL money that A&M has, or maybe that an Alabama has, or or other schools have for that matter. The state of Louisiana doesn't have the money that other states have. I mean, that's quite frankly, and so that's how it trickles down. But the brand, the level of athlete that comes from this state, the fact that they are competitive NIL, they're just not going to be maybe top 5, maybe they won't be top 10, in NIL. But that's where the brand and the history and the tradition and the program all comes in. Not every player is going to pick where he goes to college based on the fact that I got 10,000 from one and 8,000 from another. Therefore, I'm going to go to the place that gives me 10,000. Not every player is going to do that. You're going to lose some, but that's where we have to not hit the panic button and realize, hey, it's still about getting good players, 4 stars, 5 stars, and coaching them up.
I agree completely. It's about players. You got to have players win. Great players turn into great teams. Great players make coaches great. So it's all about the players, and that's where it always funnels back to with financial, recruiting, NIL, the facilities. I mean, there's a long list.
Let's speaking of players, congratulations again to Trey and Dylan, Trey Morgan, Dylan Cruz, representing LSU, that brand, representing the Tigers on Team USA. Team USA this year, obviously a non-Olympic year. So happy for Mike Bianco, the head coach. He's there. His son, Drew Bianco, is kind of like a bullpen catcher, bullpen coach type guy. Involved over there as well during the training and stuff. So kind of a family deal. So congratulations to them. I believe the first time that Mike Bianco, I believe, has been the Team USA coach. I'm pretty sure of that. Let's talk a little golf for a minute. The golf world, I don't know that we were shocked, but were you shocked when you found out Bryson DeChambeau got over $125 million to join the LIV Tour?
I was not. He was on an interview or doing a podcast, and somebody said, "We heard you got $125 million to go to the LIV Tour." He said, "That's a little bit low." So you could read it. It means it's north of 125. So, I'm guessing it's not real close to 125 because otherwise he just said that's kind of close, but maybe it's 175. I don't know. But Phil Mickelson got 200. I don't know if DeChambeau would get that same number, but lots of golfers now, and then there's some golfers coming out and ripping the guys for being hypocrites, and I mean it's a mess. It really is. But I don't think the LIV Tour is going away anytime soon. They got another event coming up, and of course you got the British Open next week, and it'll be interesting to see how much they talk or don't talk about the LIV Tour. Well, who's got that? ABC, I think, has the British Open. ESPN, I think, have the rights to that. But, because it's been kind of like quashed a little bit. Like, you're not hearing the major platforms get into it and put the leaderboard up and run the big story about who won the tournament. You kind of got to hunt and peck and tool around the internet to find some stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But, again, it's not going to go away anytime soon. And we'll have to see what happens. It's going to change the world of golf. The football world's changing. I mean, sports is changing. Baseball's got a DH in both leagues. I mean, there's lots of changes happening in the world of sports.
Bryson DeChambeau made over $25 million in his last 5 years just on the golf portion. Prize money, stuff like that. In 2021, see, during his 5.5-year professional golf career so far, DeChambeau has earned around $23 million. In 2021, he earned around $5 million. So let's just say let's just say now it's $30 million. Doesn't matter. $30 million in 6 years. That's $5 million a year that he's made just from like earnings on the golf. That's not sponsorship, right? And obviously with the sponsor stuff, you probably double it, at least something like that. So $60 million. Let's just say he's made $60 million in the last 6 years. That's a tremendous amount of money. We're talking 125 plus. The only thing he said was it was over 125. So who knows? Like I said, it was a 200, was a 150, but let's say it's 130. That's like someone saying, "Hey, Bryson, we're going to give you the next 13 years worth of money right now." It's like winning the lottery and deciding, do I want to get paid off over 30 years or do I want to, get the lump sum up front? Yeah, I might have to take a little less on the big, but I'm taking up front. I'd rather have it now because who knows I'm going to be alive. And then, oh, by the way, I can do with it what I want. Again, I just continue to say, I don't know how anybody can begrudge these golfers, even if the course isn't as good, even if the fans aren't as good, whatever, 3 rounds instead of 4. Hell, if they let them ride in golf carts, if they've got silly team names, don't care. It's 130 right now. And oh, by the way, that's before any other extracurricular, appearance fees or sponsorship dollars or anything else here. Come on, it's a no-brainer.
Well, and it's my understanding they get this money all at once up front, like the lump sum. It's I haven't read anything that says like Mickelson's getting $20 million a year for 10 years. I read that he got $200 million. DeChambeau got north of $125 million. Other guys when they went for the money, they got that amount that they went for.
Now let's just say this, Phil. Don't back out on your deal. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, hey, Phil, you're joining our tour for the next 5 years. We're going to give you $20 million right now. And then all of a sudden, after a year or two, you decide, I'm going to go back to the PGA. We may not see Phil again if that happens.
So,
Phil?
Unintended consequences.
Hey,
we'll see what
happens.
happens.
Take the money. You make sure you live up to your obligation, Tiger Woods going to be playing in the Masters. In the British Open this coming week over at the Old Course. What did he say about this coming week?
Well, what he said was he wasn't ready physically to play the United States Open. His leg. He's having issues with his leg. Some people can't believe he walks around, much less tries to play golf at that level. And he said he wasn't ready, but he knew that if he skipped the U.S. Open, could be ready for St. Andrews, where the British Open is. The Old Course, the history, he has won there. And he said he wanted to be able to give that one more run at a high level instead of just going out there and shooting 77, 76 and missing the cut. Now, we'll see what happens next week when they tee it up. But, I think it was a way of him to say, I'm never going to be the same. So as much as that, as difficult as that may be for him to accept. So he's trying to make this run because it's St. Andrews. And then who knows what will happen after that. I think he'll become the father-son golfer and, maybe become one of the tee-off guys at the Masters and, whatever. But the injury is causing a lot of problems, and it's not responding to where he can get to the level of, he can go out and play golf with his son and daughter. Yeah, but he can't play at the professional PGA Tour level.
It doesn't matter to me if he goes out there with one leg. The fact that Tiger Woods is playing St. Andrews is pretty cool. He's had a lot of great history there, and until he stops playing golf, anytime he plays, he's going to be the story. Hey, congratulations, by the way, in order for Sean Kelly, who just got named play-by-play voice of the Florida Gators. Congratulations to Sean Kelly, the former voice of the Pelicans, who's been a ESPN radio play-by-play guy since 2019 when he left the Pelicans to take the national job. By the way, Sean Kelly was a finalist for the LSU job back when they hired Chris Blair. But good guy. He is now going to be living in Gainesville and going to be the play-by-play voice of the Florida Gators. And, that's one of those jobs where, if you do a good job and you don't do anything too stupid, you probably do it until you die.
Hey, he could be there 20, 25 years. Look, Eli Gold's still doing Alabama football, and he kind of made his name in NASCAR. And then now, if you listen to Bama, you're going to get Eli Gold. And, there was some other legends in the SEC broadcast, and Munson at Georgia, Hawthorne at LSU, the guy up at Mississippi State. There was a bunch of other guys that did it for decades, not years, decades. And that's something Sean Kelly could end up doing.
Yeah. So Sean Kelly, only 50 years old, same age as me.
But the big difference between he and you is he didn't have the birthday extravaganza that you had. I'll bet on that.
Is a fact.
Hey, that's what I'm going with.
By the way, thanks to Chance and Craig and Byron Painter saying they went from independent contractor, talking about the live golfers, went from independent contractor to an employee. Now they will have to play in all the events as opposed to being able to pick and choose. This is true, Byron, but how many events did they have this year? 8? So I mean, they're going to play in a lot less events and make a lot more money.
Well,
so
one other thing, Ronnie, one of the PGA tours, and I'm trying to come up with his name, Billy Horschel. He came out and blasted these live guys for being hypocrites, because the minimum requirement on the PGA tour to maintain your membership is 15 tournaments. You can play more, but you must play 15. The live tour, you got to play 14. And he's like, so I mean, his perspective, Billy Horschel, and all these guys saying the tour didn't listen to him, he's refuting that. And again, it's like a war of words. They're not happy on the playground at recess. Let's just put it that
way. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I missed this. Drew Bianco transferring to Houston. Okay, there was a lot of thought that Drew Bianco transferring to play for the Houston Cougars. I thought
that's a shock.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be going to play for his dad. That was kind of what. That was kind of what Jay thought. That was actually a couple days ago on the 3rd that story broke. Drew Bianco is going to be in the Houston Cougars in the American Athletic Conference. So congratulations to him.
I'm very surprised.
Yeah. Let's see. Houston's going to be playing in the Big 12 following the 2023 season. That won't do him any good. He'll be there during the 2023 season. But anyway, LSU going to Houston. Thought he would maybe be going to Ole Miss to break that whole can't play for dad thing, to go there. But that tells me that he wants to play. He doesn't want to just go be a backup, have a cool experience with dad. That he wants to actually play, and obviously going to Houston gives him more of a chance than if he would be going to Ole Miss. So
most kids want to be on the field, and if you've been told you're going to be on the field, you're going to go do that because everybody knows you don't play the game forever. So if you have a chance to get on the field, I don't blame you.
Well, good for him. All right, we'll be back on Friday with more Sports Shorts Daily. He's Tommy. I'm Ronnie over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Don't forget, make your plans next week. The Baton Rouge Rougarou come home. It's a summer college wood bat baseball league team that plays in the Texas Collegiate League. Think of minor league baseball, but with college players. We'll be back in action Tuesday night. All games are at 7 o'clock. We play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday of next week. A lot of baseball to be played. 13 home games between July 12th and July 31st. So come on out, make your plans. Go to brrougarou.com, brrougarou.com.
All right, TJ. Looking forward to that. Rougarou little road trip now, 5 games on the road, then they'll come home, 6-game homestand. We need you out at Pete Goldsby Field this Sunday night. Game from Lafayette will be on ESPN, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll remind you that during Sports Shorts Radio on Saturday morning. I did have a couple of questions, Ronnie. Hold the Rope Radio is taking a little pause until mid to late August. Apparently, Skip and Cano have done this for many years. I just joined the show this past year. So some people say, what happened? It's normal for them to take a pause after the College World Series until mid to late August. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. But that is the normal routine going on.
All right. For Tommy, I'm Ronnie. Have a great one. Don't forget to stop by Tremonti's Meat and Seafood this week. Check them out. They've got the crabs, boiled crabs this afternoon.